Hello, this is Rochelle. I'm here with Annie Jubb, who I don't even know where to begin with introducing you because you're an incredible woman in the scene. You're an author, you're a public speaker, you're a pioneer of bio-nutrition. You had restaurants, and so welcome. And
thank you.
have I missed anything? I'm sure. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful day in Seattle.
Yeah, right. And I'm in LA. So, so one of the things, someone like you, you're so experienced. You've spent decades working in your cafes and clinics and with people, private clients and workshops and things like that. And I'm just wondering if there is a through line that you notice, because obviously you've experienced so many different broad ranges of illness. And, you know, like, is there a through line in nutrition that you've noticed tends to help across the board?
Well, yes. I mean, actually, the through line that's kind of affecting me today is actually just making your own food, you know?
Right.
So I'm actually taking care of a friend right now who had an unexpected back surgery. So I've been here for a couple of weeks. So I was really hands-on making all the food for the first 2 weeks. And then they do this thing now too when somebody's sick, you know, like they just go ahead and stock your food delivery card, you know, it's like free, like I'm buying you dinner kind of a thing, right? So the hundreds and hundreds of dollars have rolled in. So we've literally eaten, like, you know, had food sent to the house every day for the last 7 days. And I am completely over it. You know, because it's so out of your hands, right? You don't know what sauces are going to come and the flavorings and all the oils that they use are canola and not really great oils, even for good restaurants, right? There's
totally.
And, you know, and then it just keeps sneaking in, you know, until this morning I woke up and I thought, I feel terrible. I'm not having any more food from outside the house coming in. And then I said to her too, I was like, well, gosh, are there any like juice bars or something where we can get like 6 green juices sent? Like that would be a good way to use that. And to, you know, and it's fun to celebrate a little bit. It's fun to have kind of out there moments and stuff. But for a day to day, like when I woke up this morning, I thought, oh, this is that feeling I have of not having control over my diet, right? Which is very important to me. And in that, it sets you up for, like, I literally had the thought, like, people who eat like this constantly for years would be very vulnerable to an opportunistic virus or anything else coming through, because you don't even know what you ate. You know what I mean? Like you're eating condiments and all these different foods and all of the sauces that come with them, and even a salad. Like nobody can just do a good clean salad. You know what I mean? Like what I had at my restaurants and so on.
Oh yeah.
So
salt, like there's an organic restaurant here that I go to, but I always feel weird afterwards because I'm sure they use regular salt. No.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the, you know, the quality is always going to be lower than what you would have. And I went to one of the nicest restaurants in Seattle on Monday too, and it's just sort of, it's more like an experience than it is like dining. You know, like it's so important to actually know what goes into your body, it goes into your diet, you know, and even shopping for the food too, like, you know, you just know what it is.
Yeah. And
you've already become, you know, you started to assimilate it actually when you shop for it, when you prepare it, you know, when you have it at your house. And and then the other thing that's really, really simple that I would love to get an international trend going for, a fresh green juice every single day. You know, you can really get away with so much if you just get all these greens, fruits and vegetables into you. You know, you can really skate through on a lot of, you know, entertainment food is what I kind of call it. You know, it's not really nourishment. There's empty calories there. It's more like the event, right? It's the event of sitting with your friend and, you know, picking the menu, where you're going to go and all this kind of stuff. But but actual nutrition requires hands-on. It requires knowing what it is. It requires shopping for it, at least at some point, you know. And it's funny now too, this quarantine and COVID, you know, that everybody's in right now. And I remember at the beginning of it, people that I know that had, you know, never eaten any canned food in years, right? We're all out shopping for canned food. You know, they were like, let's stock up. We're going to have, you know, like all this food that nobody normally would eat, you know.
And all the greens were left alone. Like there was nothing missing in the greens department. I don't know if
I know that. Fully stocked to the
like all the celery was there, loads of cucumbers.
I know, right, where they're always selling out of celery with this medical medium guy getting everybody to eat celery or drink celery juice, which is fantastic. But it was so funny. Yeah, like at the beginning of COVID, I was like, oh, even the celery, we've got plenty of celery here.
Right. That's so interesting. I mean, that's one of the things I loved with going to your restaurant, was knowing that I could have that entertainment food, but also feel really amazing afterwards. Like your pies and your tiramisus and Irish moss and all these, like you're having your seaweed in a dessert. I mean, yeah. Which is leads me to another question. So one of the things I've been obsessed with since going to your restaurants is the electrolyte lemonade. I make it for myself all the time, and I know it's such a big difference, almost more than I get from a green juice. It's very weird. I add Irish moss and camu berry as well, as you know what your recipe is. That I but
it's basically a lemonade with a little bit of oil and salt, and then you can put anything else in there too. What do you put? You put camu and Irish moss.
And Irish moss. That's my additional thing that I add. And I remember you once telling me something about how you came to create that, and it really fascinated me. It was like when you were in New York, and it was actually one of the first healing recipes that came. So thank you for asking about this. Actually, it's so nice to travel back in time. It was it was one of the first recipes that kind of downloaded through me. It was in 1990, and I had just I actually went to India, and while I was there, I became a vegetarian. And when I came back, I instantly was introduced to raw living foods and did a huge pivot and went right into raw living foods, right? And that was one of the first recipes because my husband at the time, Dr. David Jubb, and I were living in New York City, and there were quite a lot of the AIDS virus. The AIDS virus was massive at the time, actually, and we were living in the village too, so there was a lot of fundraising for it, a lot of attention and awareness for it, a lot of like AMFAR and a lot of the gay men were getting really organized, right, and getting really public about it, right? And so there was a real attention to that. And I thought, what would be a healing food for AIDS, right? What do they need? What's going on there? And I started looking at the profiles, and some clients started coming to us at that time too. And I realized, oh, they're party boys. You know, they've been out partying through the 80s. They like to party. They like to have sex. They like to dance all night and drink and do drugs and everything. And that was their thing. So it's like, oh, we're recovering from that. Then they need to, get them healthy. And and I thought, well, everybody loves lemonade, you know. I mean, what could we do to it? And I thought, well, so lemonade is just, you know, lemons and water, and we're sweetening it with a little honey, and then we added any kind of an oil, like a tablespoon or two of oil, like a flaxseed oil or coconut oil. But this was in 1990, so coconut oil was not that widely available like what we have today. But flaxseed oil was just starting to come on the scene. I don't know if you remember this time period, but it was like they were just getting organized with oils. You know, like you could kind of find a cold pressed olive oil, but it was really new. Okay.
And so at the time I wanted to get more people to drink more oils too. I was like, well, you know, if you've got really, you know, viscous blood, any profile you have whatsoever, especially really viscous blood, you know, that a little oil in there is going to, especially cold pressed oil, is going to make it really more slippery blood, more beautiful alignment in blood. And then anything you could pair with lemons are one of the most healing foods on the planet, right?
Why
And
what's in lemon that makes it so healing? That's fascinating because it's such a simple thing.
yeah, it's what's so healing about it? Well,
Yeah.
first of all, there's no sugar in it, right? So all of the other fruits and vegetables have some kind of sugar to it. There's a lot of vitamin C in there, which is nice too, but it's very, what do you call it, like astringent. It cleans and clears and breaks up oil at the subatomic level.
Right.
So it cleans the blood beautifully, right? And no matter where you've got gunk stored in your body,
Yeah.
lemon juice and lemons are going to help to clean it out and get it cleaned in there. And you can clean anything. You can clean horrible, dirty, you know, industrial, mechanical things, right, with lemon juice, right?
That's true. Yeah.
And it has the same kind of cleaning abilities as like vinegar does, you know, and it actually is used in the same kind of way. It's an acid, so it has like, it's not really an acid, but it's alkaline forming in the body, but that type of an acid cleans things, right? So it's just very cleaning. And if we lived in a perfect world and we were all, you know, running through the jungle all day long and there was no such thing as air pollution or anything like that, then it wouldn't be a problem. Lemons wouldn't be such a focus. But we're not. We're living in really polluted cities. We're eating a lot of unusual combinations of food that we've never really done before. You know, we're a million-year-long experiment here. And in the last second, we have all these foods and all these different kind of foods. If you go back even like 50 years, most people were eating the same meal every single day, you know, with seasonal variations, you know, but like just basic food, you know. And now we're eating hundreds of flavoring chemicals along with those foods. We're eating all these foods that are designed to trick the salivatory senses of the body, your own ability to find food. All these flavorings and seasonings and they're chemicals, right? They really do a number on the brain to trick you into thinking that it's real food. So no matter what they put it on, you think it's real food. But you can't, there's no cutoff mechanism to it too. So it's like people are, you know, whatever, just eating. But all this to get back to the lemonade anyway. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 lemonade. But the lemonade, the electrolyte lemonade has a little pinch of Celtic sea salt in it too. So it brings this electrolyte kind of dance, what's called Brownian movement. So what is electrolytes are basically tiny minerals that have movement to them, right? What's called Brownian movement. It has emotion and energy. And so these little electrolytes are fantastic for creating space inside the body, right? So you want a lot of space in the body, you know, the bloodstream and between molecules, there should be plenty of space. And when we eat a lot of the processed and denatured foods of today, what it does is it leaves a residue right inside of us, and it starts to fill up those empty spaces. And so you see yourself, you know, anybody walking around who's, you know, 70, 80 years old is carrying a lot of extra weight. They're very dense, right? And what has happened is they're carrying extra weight, but they're also, they filled up a lot of the empty spaces of the body with sediment and materials from food that they ate but never digest, and so they stored it. So lemonade can get in there and break all that up, create some more space, and dissolve at the subatomic level that silt of meals from days gone by. So that's why the lemon is your good friend.
That's so fascinating. And it's also antiviral, of course, especially in that combination with the salt and the honey and the
yeah, it's really tasty. I've never found somebody who didn't like it, you know. And like that, you can play with it too. So if we have, I mean, the classic recipe has a pear in it, mostly because it really helps to get people to go to the bathroom more often, right? So it helps with a good laxative, kind of an energy. It helps with the peristalsis, you know, the energy and wave that moves through the intestinal tract. Um,
That's so interesting. I didn't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you why the pear specifically. Yeah.
Why the pear? Just because because I'm an American and I work on a lot of Americans, and most Americans are extremely constipated. They're carrying around way too much shit with them at all times.
On a lot of levels.
On a lot of levels, and that's a real thing too. Like when people die, and they clean up the body, they're doing the autopsy on the body, they have to remove all the fecal debris, and it's often,
Wow.
I mean, John Wayne, when he was autopsied, he had like 36 pounds of fecal debris. Remember that big belly he had and stuff before he died? And so you can actually, people say, oh, I want to lose 5 pounds. I'm like, well, when was the last time you really had a full and thorough evacuation? Because I bet you've got 5 pounds of poo in there. And they're like, what? No way.
And then
I'm like, well, let's just play with it. How many bowel movements you normally have? Let's kick it up. Let's have 2, 3, 4 a day. And then you've lost a bit of weight and your stomach is nice and flat, and off they go. And, we're often, it's normal to have a couple of meals in there digesting, but it's healthful, and it's very healthful to, at some point, even once or twice a month, to really do a full and thorough evacuation and stay kind of empty for 10, 15, 20 hours, 24 hours, before you start to build up and doing the 3 meals again a day and stuff. So I told you, today's my day one like that, right? Where all day long I'm going to be having nutritive herbal beverages. I've got a glass of, now that we're talking about electrolyte lemonade, I'm going to make an electrolyte lemonade because I've got some great lemons up there and some really good flaxseed oil too. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. But, it's summertime, so I bought a bunch of watermelons, and I've just been juicing the watermelons and eating it. I mean, you hardly even have to juice it. Yeah. So just like that, just take a day of just doing liquids, nutritive, but also light, and just enjoy, I'll do a full and thorough evacuation, just for 24 hours, and I'll feel like $1 million tomorrow,
Yeah. It makes a big difference. And then as far as immunity goes, what kind of things are really good just on a day-to-day basis to build our immunity? Because we can't control our environment, right? Our environment is always going to shift and change. So I believe it's really important for us to really, I'm more of a terrain-based person as far as like looking after the terrain. So
keep the terrain.
Try to.
What was that Pasteur said on his deathbed? It was something like, the microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. His last gasp, you're like,
right.
Are you kidding us?
I know.
Everybody took it seriously. No, you're absolutely right. You can survive. It's sort of like, well, anyway, go ahead.
No, well, I was going to ask, what do you recommend? Simple things, because we love superfoods and that, but for people who don't want to spend money on superfoods, the electrolyte lemonade's a good one. Is there other things you can recommend?
Yeah, I mean, like, become a bit of a water snob. Like, just pick one thing basically and become really, educate yourself on that too. So if all of this is kind of new and a bit overwhelming, focus on one thing. Really, water. Like, water is amazing for us. And if you want to do one superfood beverage a day,
I agree.
You can call it water.
I absolutely agree. When I lived in Brighton, I lived off this natural spring water in the area for 2 years. And that's the only thing I drank. And the difference was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually have thought that many times, if there was one superfood, what would it be? But spring water, like going to the spring and collecting your own spring water, which not a lot of people want to do. But what's the alternative to getting good quality water in the city if you don't want to go to a nearby mountain with your big glass jug?
Absolutely. Okay, so absolutely. So I am a big fan of water purification units, and I've endorsed a couple over the years to get a, it's a perfect investment. Everybody should have one. You'll never really, be buying bottled water, which has a lot of problems to it anyway. Plastic, first of all, let's start there. But then the plastic outgas into the water, especially if there's any kind of ambient heat, you know, like on a hot day. But get a good water filtration system, because you can, like that, it's sort of, then you can affect your terrain, right? Because wherever you go, you'll always have the ability to take whatever water is on tap, literally on tap, and turn it into really drinkable, beautiful water that'll be in a glass jar. You know, I write a lot about water. I'm very passionate about water. And so like my water filtration system, just so you can know to the degree I go to it, and this is not an expensive unit, but it takes out it's got 9 filtration systems on it, and it takes out 100% of the dissolved solids. So, you know, wherever my glass of water began today, it traveled over a lot of earth, you know, and through a lot of pipes and all kinds of soldered pipe, you know, connections and all of this stuff too. So by the time it gets to me, it's already got a story. It's picked up a lot along the way. So it can have, usually when they test the water, it'll have like 600 dissolved solids. So it's 600 parts of dissolved solids per million, I think is how they say it. So basically what that is it's all kinds of minerals that it picked up along the journey from the glacier as it melted into the rivers and streams and however else it got to me in my city, wherever I am. So it'll have like 600 parts per million, and you want 0, right? And then this water filtration system I have, my friend William designs these, and he designed them for my restaurants as well too. So you can go quite large with these scales. I'd love to see whole cities invest in this kind of infrastructure, because your water determines your health, basically.
Right.
Anyway, so then it puts back 7% coral calcium, so it makes it very slightly alkaline, but importantly alkaline, right? So we're more acidic. We're too acidic these days. All of the degenerative diseases like cancer and diabetes and obesity, all of that is you know, too much acids, right, in the diet. So if you're drinking alkaline water, you're going to help put your pH back into a really good, you know, 80-20 acid alkaline balance. And that's very, very important. So one of the hacks that you can do is buy one of those little pH strips. They're very inexpensive. And if you want to know exactly how alkaline you are, you can test saliva and your urine, and you can test it right throughout the day after you've eaten some of your favorite foods or had a cocktail. Is always a really interesting thing. You're like, wow, that just went way down, you know. And then it makes you more yeah, exactly. But it makes you more educated. Handing them out at parties. Have you tested your pH?
That's without leaving the house.
But it gives you that feedback right away. So alkaline water is a superfood hack that I would say. If you want to get very specific about one thing, and then you got your purified water, and then you can add a vibrational frequency to it as well. And you can make it more and more and more of a superfood. I know you know this, but maybe some of the listeners might not, where if you look at Dr. Emoto's work, right? So he's a Japanese, a very elegant, I think he's Japanese, where he started putting on a jar of water love, right, on one jar, and then hate on another jar, and then looking with an electron microscope at the water structure before he put the love on it, just the word LOVE, and then he puts love on it and takes a photograph of it, and literally it starts to organize itself. There's this brilliant and beautiful, incredibly matrixed field intelligent field that starts to form around the word love, right? So that's just one jar of water. The second jar of water that has hate on it has started to become chaotic and disorganized. You can literally see it with your eyes. You can take a photograph of it. So back to the bottle of water. So once I have my purified water, then I put it onto you know, in a gallon jar. I put a beautiful crystal in it, which also helps to matrix the water and make it more very highly structured. When we take water from a mountain, a high mountain somewhere that's very pure, it's very structured. It's a beautiful, beautiful structured water. So you want to kind of simulate that. You want to get back to that organic beauty matrix kind of structure with the water. So I put a crystal in it. I stick it on top of a like a big chunk of magnets that I have, because that also adds a really nice vibrational frequency to it.
Oh, really? You can add magnets to the water?
Yeah, well,
No.
not. It's sitting on top of magnets. I have these big, chunky 8,000 Gauss magnets. You don't have to do any of that. That's just extra, but it does add a vibrational frequency to the water. So, like, if you wanted to do one thing, we're kind of saying, like, the superfood of water, you can play with that for years. You can keep, you know, refining what you do with it, vibrational frequencies that you put into it, different crystals you can rotate in and out of that as well. And some people, you know, when I started with my career, there was all this kind of an energy around like auras, and it was very woo-woo and all this stuff. And then I had the last laugh when talking about auras, when all these great cameras started showing up.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, remember the aura that we were laughing about only a few years ago? It's real. And here's a beautiful picture of it, you know.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, even Emoto did that, didn't he? You know, people not understanding that water can hold information as well. All this kind of showed in his work that that was actually very much the case. So, but I don't know about the magnets. I use magnets around my blender, my Vitamix, north, south, and it, when you blend, it makes the molecules smaller, so more absorbable. So you can't get more bang for your buck when you like making. But I didn't know you could also do that with water.
Yeah, with water, you can play with magnets. They're really quite a lot of fun, actually. But yeah, like, well, so that's very interesting too, right? So it does affect the organic foods, you know, that we prepare, especially like that, where we're smashing things together at very high speeds. Because we do love a smoothie.
Right, exactly.
But you can also put it, what's that?
I think that's what you'll be doing today.
All day long. Yeah. Well, you know, and then, so I like the magnets because the magnets also structure things, right? They're a very organized field, and there's a lot of information inside of organized, very highly matrixed, highly structured fields like that.
For the cells, for the cells, basically, you know, just to kind of connect it. You drink stuff and it organizes your cells in your body because you're drinking, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it, you know, it works on a subatomic level as well. It's, I mean, we could talk about that for a long time, but just about every cell in the body is polarized. So if you want to, you know, so it has a negative and a positive end.
Really?
Every single cell of us does.
Really?
So if you want to start playing, so if you want to start playing with that understanding, then, you know, I think we could do more with, well, we are doing a lot with magnets in medicine, aren't we? Magnetic resonance, and but I think we could take it a much further too, because I think there's a lot to there's a great benefit from being inside of these magnetic fields, actually. And for a number of years, actually, when I first started playing with these, I was sleeping with them. I was putting, you know, negative, I think you put I can't remember if it's negative or positive. I think positive side up. You know, you can play with it on your feet and then on your head, you know, as you sleep in that field. And you dream really beautifully. You can kind of play around with it and stuff too. But I feel it's kind of an untapped, very cool earth magic kind of a thing, you know, with magnets. Yeah.
That's so fascinating. So one last question. A lot of people are going through isolation at the moment, and there's a lot of disconnect and, I guess, you know, mental issues and depression and things like that. Is there anything that you could recommend to inspire people to kind of, you know, feel better?
Absolutely. Well, with any isolation, you know, you can you can drive yourself crazy, or you can evolve, right?
Yeah.
So I think that no matter what's happening, it's always a good time to work on self, right? So, I mean, I'm a lifelong learner. I've worked on myself all my life, but you know yourself too. Like you'll go through little spurts, or something will happen on the outside, like a coronavirus lockdown, and all of a sudden you're like, who am I when I'm in my house all the time for months, and nobody can come over, and I can't have sex. And what? So this is an excellent time to gain control and mastery of your mind and your heart and your language, right? So the thing to do is evolve, right? Absolutely. The absolute best thing to do right now is to evolve. Pick something, anything, and evolve with it, right? So I love shamanism. I've studied shamanism. I've taught shamanism. I've worked with shamanism all my life, all my adult life. And maybe about a month or so ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, I decided to take a deeper dive. You know, I mean, they have, and studying specifically South American shamanism, right? So this is like dream work, lucid dreaming, waking up in the dream world, and having an awareness, right? To be able to shape the dream, to do things in your dream time, right? Become more aware of that time in our lives when we're typically not aware. But you can be. You can evolve. You can become better. You can get a new dream journal. You can start to, you know, work on yourself. I saw I'm rereading Edgar Casey's biography now. I just finished it yesterday, actually. There Is a River. Have you read it?
No.
You would love it. He's the sleeping prophet of about 150 years ago. He went into like a somnambulistic trance, and then he would do diagnostics for people, like, and it was fantastic with it. And then about halfway through his career, somebody decided to not ask a medical question, but ask a philosophical question about astrology and about their own personal reading. And here comes this whole wealth of information about reincarnation, where we go and what we do after we die while we're resting between lives, what is the nature of the universe, and all this stuff. Anyway, so a wonderful little read. There Is a River. And if you're interested in any kind of, it's not shamanism at all. It's American history, actually, too. And it was kind of nice to hang out in the late 1800s, actually, for a week or two while I was reading his book, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so in it says something like, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You know, so you're going to be doing the external things that you're always doing, but what you can change is how you are inside. Pick something wonderful and go deep dive into it. It's a great time to take any kind of classes. Everybody's bringing all their fabulous magic online. You know, this is a good time to start reading, really like order a bunch of books and go into it, like a deep dive down that particular pathway of anything that interests you at all. And especially if you're new to spending time by yourself, or you're new to have a hobby, or new, you know, like sometimes I think this is, for some people, it'll be like the first time that they've had a couple months off, you know? I mean, right? Who can say that? You know, this is America where they work until they drop dead, you know? So I gear up where everybody takes a month off and has a lovely August, you know? So it's the first time that they've had so much time on their hands. So it's a wonderful time to invest in yourself. Follow anything that's interesting to you and become good at it.
That's very good advice. Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you so much.
Oh, so nice chatting with you, honey.
Yeah, lovely to chat with you too. We'll hopefully be able to do this again.
Yeah.
Another time. Post quarantine.
There you go.
See where the game is taking you. Mountain you'll be living on. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, sweetheart. Hey, have a beautiful, beautiful day, and let's catch up with each other soon. I'll get back to LA at some point. At some point, I will arrive.
I hope so.